Welcome to the Unshakable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Bob B from New York, who's come to share on the topic of quite as important was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all my problems. For about 40 minutes, Bob, after which we're going to open up for the Q&A portion of the meeting. And with that, Bob, it's over to you.
Thank you. My name is Bob Bushley. I am a recovered addict and alcoholic. For your pleasure, my sobriety date or clean date is May 18th, 1974. And rather than trying to do the math on that, I'll tell you that's 51 years, 9 months, and 13 days ago. At least that's what my telephone tells me. So, and that's how long I've been around this program. I'm not here to tell you a drug-a-log or a drunk-a-log. If you're in this room, you know how to use it, and I'm not here to compare it. Because in the beginning, it tells us it doesn't matter what you used, how much you drank, what you drank, when you used, how you used, and it's not about that at all. It's about the addiction, and I was addicted to it. Alcohol and drugs were my savior in the beginning. It allowed me to live life without committing homicide or suicide. And later on, it became a problem. And the way I knew it was a problem was an old timer once said, what causes a problem is a problem because it causes problems. And I started having horrendous blackouts, and that began to be a problem with me. And so my use of drugs and alcohol became a problem for me. I thought it was natural that people would black out when they drank. I thought everybody did, and I was wrong about that. Only certain people have those, and I was one of the fortunate ones. My blackouts would last. I would start drinking in California, start drinking using California, and come to across the United States. I came to here in Utica, New York one time, and I thought my mother had come to California to chew me out, and I was sitting across from the kitchen table from here in Utica and didn't know how I got here or how long it took me, and I didn't have a train ticket, plane ticket, bus ticket, didn't have anything, so I was totally lost and flabbergasted. But being a good mother, she got me healthy, and I went out drinking again with my brothers and sisters, and when I came to, I was sitting across the table from a man, a woman, and 4 kids, and I looked at him and said, boy, you people look familiar to me. I don't remember your name. And they said, well, we're Chuck and Annette. You used to work with us in Georgia. And I said, Georgia? Am I in Georgia? They go, no, you're in Birmingham, Alabama. I said, what? I mean, how long have I been here? They said, well, you've been here for a couple of weeks now. And I was in a blackout that whole time. I said, what have I been doing? They go, well, don't you remember? You're assistant manager here at Taco Bell. So, okay, the greatest thing about being in Birmingham, Alabama was that they opened their doors after church on Sunday and didn't close them again till midnight the next Saturday night. You can drink 24 hours a day. It was fabulous. And so I tried to do that as much as I could. But I'm not here to tell you drunk-a-log. What I'm here to tell you is how I found the principles in this program, exactly what is said there in that reading on bottom of page 42. Obviously, the discovery of spiritual principles are the answer to all my problems. Now, I had a person that I know here in Utica who coined a phrase which I use often. He says, those charts up on the wall where it's the 12 steps and 12 traditions. Well, if you do them 12 steps off the chart, off the wall, all you have is off the wall sobriety. Because the program for this is in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's where the recovery program is. When I got here, I kept hearing people say, after they read chapter 3 and chapter 5, that we practice these principles in all our affairs, and I kept asking them, what are the principles? And I said, well, it's those things up on the wall. And I said, I don't understand that. It's too complicated for me. You gotta make it. And they said, well, you'll find out, and I kept going along, kept asking, and no one could tell me what the simple principles were. And it took me quite a while before I found an old man who was able to explain to me some of them. But what happened to me is the most important thing. After my second meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous, because Cocaine Anonymous wasn't in yet for another 8 years, I went to my brother's house, And I was scared to death that I was going to drink and use because that's where my mind was. Even after the meetings I had been to, where am I going to get something? How am I going to get something? When am I going to get something? Who am I going to steal from? Am I going to go to the grocery store and steal my booze? And my mind was racing 1,000 miles an hour and it wouldn't stop. And I was going crazy. My brother put me in his bedroom because he didn't want his in-laws to see his crazy brother. But in his bedroom, I was on my hands and knees and all my walls came down. I finally hit bottom. And what happened, I was like a rock sinking to the bottom of the ocean. I was drowning and I knew that I was done. And I called out and begged that which I hated, detested, and denied. I begged for help. And that's all it was just called out for help. I heard somebody behind me say it'll be okay. And I said, oh, shoot, now I'm caught in a very compromising, embarrassing situation on my hands and knees praying, and someone has caught me doing this. And I got up cleaning the mucus from my face and the tears and that and turned around to see who was there, and no one was in the room. Now I know I'm crazy because I'm hearing voices. And what's even worse is I'm not even thinking about drinking or using. What am I going to do now? I can't even drink or use if I wanted to. It's been taken away from me. I am absolutely crazy. Lock me up. And they did. They took me to the hospital over in Arcadia, California, and a Presbyterian hospital, and they put me in a locked ward. And I was there for 11 days. Now, none of my family came and saw me. They didn't call. They didn't care about me. They just locked me away. But who cared was the man who came and did a 12-step call on me for the first time to get me to the first AA meeting. His name was Kenny Woods. He came every single night and took me out of that institution and took me to an AA meeting. And so I got to find out that AA cared when my family didn't, so you became my family. When I got out of there, I went to the clubhouse, which was right there in Pasadena, and I passed it 1,000 times drunk, staggering down the street and didn't even know it was there. And so I went to that clubhouse and it was open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. You could go in there anytime, night or day, and get a cup of coffee and talk with somebody. That's what was nice about that clubhouse. And it was only a couple blocks from where I lived, which was really nice because by that time I was living in the YMCA. I could no longer afford my apartment. I had to have a room in the YMCA. And so it was only a couple blocks from the YMCA. And so I would go from the clubhouse to the YMCA to sleep, and then I'd be back to the clubhouse and then go out and have lunch with some people or breakfast or whatever. But I lived in that clubhouse. And what we did is they had meetings there that were happening all the time. And they had like 28 meetings a week. And sometimes those meetings didn't last just an hour. Sometimes they lasted 3 and 4 hours. I remember going to a nighttime meeting at 11 o'clock at night and not having it finished till 6 o'clock in the morning. They kept those meetings going, which was nice. I had a place to go so that I didn't have to use and drink. And that's what was most important in the first thing, was not using and drinking. I didn't realize what had happened to me because I had no relationship with a higher power. I didn't know it was God that had come into my life at that time and had given me a spiritual experience to remove the obsession for me to use and drink. I didn't know what a relationship with God was. I was brought up in a religion that was beat into me, and I never had a conscious contact with God at that time. Didn't even know what it was, so that was strange. But what I found out is I heard Chuck Chamberlain talking one time at a recovery house, and he explained and he talked about spiritual experience, and the lights went on in me saying, oh, that's what happened to me that time on my hands and knees in my brother's bedroom. And I went and talked to him and told him what happened. He said, young man, you had a spiritual experience and you had the obsession removed. If I were you, I would keep on that path and keep looking for that, because that's what this program is. And I found out a second thing, which was real interesting. We keep talking about the steps, and I'm sorry to say, but the steps aren't the answer. The steps are a way to find the answer. See, because in chapter 6, Bill says we looked at the first 5 proposals. Those things on the wall are the proposals, 12 steps. These are proposals. Way I found that out is I was at my sponsor's house one day in December, and he told me to read something, and being the ass that I was, I picked up a cookbook. And he says, okay, read something. I said, no, let me get the big book. He said, no, you picked up that book. You read from that book. So I read to him how to bake a chocolate cake. And when I got done, he says, could you read a little slower? You went too fast and I didn't hear all the information and instructions. So I talked just like this all the way through. When I got done, this is what he did. See, he got nose to me just like this. And he said, now, asshole, just because you read it, do you have the chocolate cake? I said, oh dear. In order to have the chocolate cake, you have to get the pans out. You have to get the flour out. You have to get the oil out. You have to get all the ingredients out. You have to heat up the stuff. You have to do all the work to get the chocolate cake. Just reading it doesn't give it to you. You just have a picture that's on the page. So those are the proposals that are up on the wall. To do those proposals, you have to follow the instructions that are in the big book. And following those instructions, you find out you get principles in your life. And the way you get those is by a higher power putting just the opposite in your life. There's 20 prayers in the big book. 19 of them are from page 63 to page 88. And one of them is a morning prayer in step 9. It says, my Creator, show me the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. That's step 9. If I'm asking for those things, that means God left those shortcomings with me even after I got done doing my 5th step. Now I know some of my defects of character are still there. Because step 7 says he doesn't even take them away from me. He only takes away those that are no longer beneficial to him or my fellow man. So he uses my defects of character to be a beneficial. And how does he teach me patience? By putting people in life for me to be impatient with. He teaches me tolerance by putting people in my life for me who I am intolerant with. He teaches me kindness by putting people in my life who I'm not kind to. And I recognize these things, and when I recognize them, saying, oh, I'm doing this thing wrong, I'm not supposed to be this way. And the same thing with love. It's easy to love the people you love, but it's hard to love those who you don't. But he keeps putting those in my way. So God keeps putting in my life paths for me to learn how to practice these principles until they become a living way of life. Well, the way I first found the principles in this program is I went and sat down with an old man when I was having trouble with the 3rd step. I was saying that prayer every night in OIMCA and nothing was happening. I wasn't getting that feeling that I got in having steps 1 and steps 2. Step 2 on Christmas Day, I was put flat on my face and waves of love washed through me. It was so strong, I prayed for it to stop, and it did. I lost my Christmas present. And I wasn't getting that experience saying that 3rd step prayer. So I went to an old man and asked him, what's wrong? Why isn't it working? He says, are you following the instructions from the big book? I said, what's that? He says, well, they're written on page 63, right after the prayer. See, most people just see the 2 prayers in the big book. They see step 3 prayer and a step 7 prayer, but there's a lot more. And you have to say these prayers in order to get these steps to do something, to get action to happen. So I said, well, what are the instructions? He says, well, you voice it without reservation, just like you did on your hands and knees in that bedroom. You called out to God for help and you didn't make any bargains with him. And you do it with honesty and humility. I said, oh, I was totally humiliated when I thought somebody had found me on my hands and knees. He says, oh, it's different than humility. He said, but you were honest and you were humble at that time because you were at the bottom. And that's when God comes in, because what happens is self becomes reduced. Your ego becomes reduced. See, I can't get rid of my ego and I can't get rid of my will. People keep saying in step 3, I made a decision to turn my will over, and it doesn't say that. It just says I made a decision to turn my will. That means go in a different direction. It's like being on a ship. If you turn a ship over, it's upside down, it sinks. But if you turn it into a different direction, it'll head south away from the icebergs and into nice, warm, sailing water. So we make a decision to turn, and then what we turn over is our old life before we got here. So the old man says, on your hands and knees, what you found the first time, you were honest with your innermost self. You conceded to your innermost self. You were honest, and that innermost self was a power greater than yourself. And you were so humble, and you were lost, that God entered you. You left enough room, just like having a full cup of tea. You can't have room for cream in it if it's full. You have to take some of the tea out before you can put the cream in. And that's the way self is in us. We have to reduce some of the self in us and some of the ego, some of our pride and arrogance we have to reduce in order to allow that higher power enter and do its work. See, that's the only thing that can change me. I don't have the power to do it. In the book, it tells me lack of power. That was my dilemma. I had to find a power by which I could live. Where and how was I to find that power? Well, that's what this book was about, they said. And so I knew the answers were there. I just had to have someone point out the directions and for me how to use and do this thing, how to bake the cake. So listening to you people, you told me what you were like and what happened to you when I was just like you. And if you could have this thing, I could have it too. You gave me hope. I came to this program. I came to believe in you people. And I came too. And I found out that I started to have faith in you, that if I followed you, I could get the same thing. So I found honesty and hope. In step 3, I found faith when I was able to say that 3rd step prayer and have it come from my heart instead of just from my head, because that's where prayers have to come from to make them real and to make them authentic. I have to feel that prayer, and every single one of them have to be that way. Otherwise, it's just lip service is all I'm paying. So I got to do that 4th step to turn over my whole life. And the way I did that was I found courage. Now, it's not to find out whether I'm good or bad, and that's not something I'm going to read to my sponsor. What it is to find out what was shutting me off from having a relationship with God. And what was shutting me off from having a relationship with God is because I wouldn't have a relationship with you. Everything I hated about life was always because of the people that were in my life, and I hated everybody. And hating everybody and not wanting them in my life, I shut out God as well. You have to have people in your life to have God in your life. If you don't let people in your life, then you won't have a God in your life. So you have to have that, because these are my fellow travelers who we find fellowship of the Spirit with, who show us the path so that we can find our path and find our way to find that understanding of a power greater than ourselves that we never knew before. And with that courage, I was able to go and talk to somebody and find integrity by telling them my whole life story. I didn't read that inventory. I found integrity. I got a clean slate. And that when I started saying I would do something, I did it. When I got to the cash register and the person gave me too much change, I turned around and gave it back to them. See, because even those little things that I did wrong and kept doing wrong were the things that hurt my soul and hurt me inside and kept me on the wrong side of principles. See, before I got here, I had no morals. I was amoral. I was without principles. I wasn't an immoral human being, but I did some immoral acts. Of course, those came out during my 5th step, and I don't have to repeat those things and don't have to do that stuff anymore. See, I did things that under the influence that I would never do when I was sober. That's why I knew I had a problem. It was because of the things that I did. And so I found that integrity, and then I found the willingness to have those things, those shortcomings changed. Now I found for me there's a difference between a shortcoming and a defect of character. When I got here to New York, it was winter time and I couldn't hold the steering wheel, so I went to Walmart and bought a pair of gloves. When I opened the package up, one of the seams wasn't sewn. I took it back in and got another pair of gloves. That's a defect from the manufacturer. When I got home, I opened up the other pair and I kept using them. And it kept snowing that week and I kept shoveling the snow in the driveway with them. And after a week, I looked at the gloves and they were ruined. That's a shortcoming because I used the gloves for the wrong purpose. See, there is a difference between a defect of character and a shortcoming. My defect of character is I don't have a God in my life. My shortcoming is all the things I did to keep God and people out of my life. So, what did I do with that? Well, I found willingness and I found humility in that 7th step prayer because I was grateful for what this program had given me so far, and it hadn't even started its work on me and giving me its greatest pleasures. But with that gratitude went out to a power greater than myself, and what returns from my higher power is humility. Sometimes I'll sit here and I'll get so grateful in the morning and I'll just sit and cry with gratitude for what I have. And it's just the humility that God is bringing back to me to have me as a humble person to do his work. That's what he has me do here, do his work. I'm here to carry the message, to carry these principles so that people can find them by doing these steps, by doing the work in these steps and making this cake so that they can have a principled life and live by these principles. So I found out that I started caring about human beings again. I started having that thing they call brotherly love, and I was willing to go back and make things right for what I had done wrong. I was willing, even the ones that I didn't like. But a lot of times I had good responses from people I went back to and doing justice. I gave them their freedom back. See, because I put people in bondage and I took them out of bondage. And when I gave them their freedom back, God gave me mine. When I gave them forgiveness for what they did to me and about me, I received forgiveness. See, I can't forgive myself. I can't love myself. It all comes from the outside. But when I recognize it, it's always been there inside me. It just had to come up and be developed. So you can't put out something that you don't got. So if you want love, then go love somebody. If you want happiness, go make somebody happy. If you want joy, go make somebody joyous. Whatever you want, go give it away and you'll have it. That's what I found out in this program. So finding those basic principles to live by and to practice, I began to start living a life that I never had because I didn't know what living was before I got here. I was a selfish, self-centered little boy that didn't know how to live life. You people taught me how to live. You people showed me how to practice these principles in my life and how to live them. And with this, I persevered. Step 10, that's perseverance. I kept doing this thing day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, even up until now today, it's the same way. I don't get out to meetings very much, but I do get newcomers. God always sees that there's a newcomer on my couch to read the big book. I just finished up with one girl. We just finished the first 88 pages and she goes, aren't we going to finish reading up to page 164? I says, well, you finished your commitment. It's up to you whether you come and sit on my couch now. I says, coming here for 12 weeks and reading the big book with me, what did you learn? She goes, I got integrity. I said, yes, you did, because you didn't miss a single date no matter what happened. You did exactly as you said you would. You started living principles and practicing principles in your life. That's what it's about. Obviously, the discovery of spiritual principles were the answer to all my problems. Practicing those principles are the answer. See, when I practice these principles and I live this way, I don't create problems in my life. I haven't had a problem in my life. I can't tell you how long it's been since I've had a problem in my life. I don't create them anymore. I don't create dysfunction or despair or any of that junk in my life anymore. I live a life of happiness and usefulness. I get to come to meetings like this and carry the message that these are the things that we need to do, the way we have to live. What part of this program is about God? What part of the ocean is about water? The whole thing, every bit of this program is about getting a relationship with a higher power. It doesn't say anything about me getting these things to get me clean and sober. That's only the first step. We admitted that we had a problem with drugs or alcohol. After that, it's all about living and getting a relationship with God. So in step 11 is my spiritual awareness. I learned how to pray and how to meditate, and the old man showed me how to pray. And I use all the prayers the same way. Voice them without reservation, honestly and humbly. And when I do that, I get the experience of having that higher power come because my cup becomes a bit empty. See, I like when my cup is half empty, because being half empty, that means I have a lot of space for a higher power to come in and do its work. So then I get to come here and be of service. This is what service is. It's not opening the meeting. It's not making coffee. It's not opening the clubhouse. No. Service is carrying the message. Having had a spiritual awakening, I've had spiritual awakenings, spiritual experiences, and I'm having spiritual experiences all the time because I have a God that's in my life. A God that I care about, which I didn't care about before I got here. Didn't know that's what I truly needed, what I truly wanted. And having that, there's no other way that I could choose to live. Happiness, joy, freedom, all those things are mine because of you people giving me those principles to live by. To giving me that big book, which I could find the instructions in with the help of another person who has been through this program. He doesn't tell me when I have to wash my clothes or when I have to wash my car or when I have to clean my... It has nothing to do with that. He shows me what the instructions are in the big book and how to get a relationship with a higher power. That's what this is about. Now, normally I would tell you to have a good morning or a good afternoon or a good evening, but good has one too many O's. So I take one out and I tell you have a God morning or a God afternoon or a God evening. See, if no one told you today that they love you, I most certainly do. Oh, there it is. There's that emptiness. There's that power that comes in. They, the humbleness that allows us to share in this meeting, to say you can recover too. If I was that selfish little boy, and many of you were probably the same way, you can have this thing too. This freedom, this joy, this happiness. So again, I love you. I thank you for allowing me to come here and share the principles that I found in this program. I could not return to the life that I had before I got here. Even if I could, I wouldn't. There's no way. It is so joyous here. So with that, once again, thank you for allowing me to come and sharing my story of recovery with you. God bless you and keep you.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Hi, everyone. My name's Young, recovered addict. Thank you so much, Bob. I always love listening to you. 51 years, Bob. That's a year older than I am on this path, carrying this message. It's just mind blowing and really inspiring that you've still got so much passion for this beautiful program that we have. I wanted to ask about your teachers on this path. Is there any one teacher that's really stuck out for you? And could you tell us a story about one of them? Thank you.
Teachers or sponsorship is like a football game. You have a main coach who is your sponsor, but you have many coaches who are line coach, passing coach, quarterback coach, field coach. You have many coaches and many people who help you along this path. Everyone who you meet along this path is your teacher. They all have a message. Only if you can open your ears and hear God speaking through them. So listen to everyone and listen to their words. They will tell you their truth.
Thank you so much, Young, for the question, and Bob for your answer. Just before bring you in next, Mark, I've got a question, Bob. 51 years, amazing. What was the fellowship like back in the 70s? What is the main difference that you see to the fellowship back then when you first came in to the fellowship now?
People doing the work. We had more people then who were there in an act of desperation than now. Too many people get saved too early, too quick. And that's what I think is wrong with recovery houses and halfway houses. People get there instead of getting to jail where they really belong and can hit their knees and call out for help. See, people called out for help in desperation and found a higher power then, even though they didn't believe in it. It worked. It still works today, but I wish you all the act of desperation.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Next up, Mark, do you want to come in with your question?
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Mark, alcoholic and addict. Bob, I'm enormously grateful for your share. Thank you so much. I'm a question. I'll just lead up to it quickly. I'm in recovery for the first time. I was clean for about 6 months, just under 7 months, and then I relapsed. And I'm 9 days back in from relapse. I'm optimistic. I'm started going through the steps again, and I feel like the one thing missing for me is my higher power, or the connection with my higher power isn't constant enough, or I haven't yet figured out how to deal with resentments. I know it may sound basic to a lot of people here, but I would really value your views on that. Like how can I handle this better?
In the fourth step, being resentment is the fourth step. There are 5 prayers. If you don't recognize and use those prayers, you can't get past those. There is a resentment prayer, and it's the one that says that we have to pray, God, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? See, that's a resentment prayer. That's showing you how to help be with that person. I know resentment is that there's things that I still don't like, but I have to accept. Acceptance comes with understanding. So you, of all, look for the understanding of why it is that you have the resentment, and understanding it, then you can accept it even though you still don't like it. And then you can start getting freedom from it, because then you will start having forgiveness to those people who you believe harmed you, when it truly is we have only harmed ourselves. They have never harmed us at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you.
Sorry, guys, couldn't unmute. Thank you, Mark, for the question and Bob for the answer. Next up, John, do you want to come in?
Hi, my name's John. I'm an alcoholic addict. Thanks very much, Bob, for your share. Absolutely enjoyed it. 51 years, fantastic. My question is, how has practicing the spiritual principles changed your behaviours, like with work colleagues and families over the years? Has it changed, or has it actually kept the same?
My problem is described in step 3. Selfish self-centeredness is a root of all my problems. But there is something that feeds the root, just like the roots of a tree. You have water and minerals feed the roots of the tree. So what feeds the root of my selfish self-centeredness? It is I want. I wanted something and you wouldn't give it to me, or you wanted something and I wouldn't give it to you. See, my selfish self-centeredness is what kept me away from everything, is what feeds it. By practicing principles, I'm not practicing selfish self-centeredness. It's not about me any longer. It's about me being of service to my fellow man, me of giving of myself to my fellow man in any and all kinds of ways, especially in finding the fellowship of the Spirit, like a meeting like this here, where you can share your true relationship with God and show other people that it is possible and that that is the answer.
Thank you, John, for your question, and Bob, thanks for that great answer once again. Thank you. Next up, Andrew.
Good afternoon, good evening, beautiful souls all. Alcoholic Andrew, glad to be here. Thank you, Danny. Keeping us erstwhile crazy people in line, eh? Bob Bushley, thank you so much. I think this is the first time I've heard you, and I've heard any speaker talk about all of the prayers within those first 3 steps, those first X many pages. Being an alcoholic, I like to pick and choose which prayer, and then I found out that it doesn't work like that. What a beautiful lead. Spiritual principles will solve all of Andrew's problems. And I'm thinking, oh no. And then I get into step 10. And now I'm on a new operating system. And it's handed to me by this source, this power, and it blows me out of the water. So I don't have to spend energy being nice or thinking of others. It just comes naturally. That's mind-boggling. The other thing is, react sanely and normally. And this, I noticed, my question is, has this happened to you regarding your grosser handicaps? That's my simple question. That's it. Thank you.
That is one of the promises in step 10. By this time, sanity will have returned. Sanity. What is insanity? Well, the way I lived was not sane. It was selfish and self-centered. That's insanity. Wronging other people is that way. But living by principles, with patience for other people, learning to have tolerance with other people, learning to be kind to other people, learning to love other people, learning to be honest not only to you, but honest to myself. When I became honest to myself and stopped lying to myself, that's when things started to change and I started having a different life. See, principles, obviously the discovery of spiritual principles was the answer. Not using them, not using them at all, not practicing them. I just had to discover them, and discovering them, then you realize when you start doing something wrong, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to act this way anymore. That's my ship going up towards the icebergs. That's me being selfish. I have expectations. I have all those 7 deadly sins I'm practicing once a year. No. We don't live that way anymore. We found a new way of living, a new happiness and a new freedom. What better way to live? What better way to live? Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Andrew, for the question and Bob for the answer. Next up, Olivia, do you want to come in?
Hi, my name's Olivia, alcoholic. Thanks, Bob, so much for your share. That was really good. I liked what you said about, it's not about making the coffee and stuff. It's about sharing the message and taking somebody through the steps, because I think that's really like at the root of being of service. I'm 9 months sober. Well, almost. I guess that'll be like in a week now. But I'm on my 4th step, and I'm like going through all these resentments of like past relationships. And it's like, it's funny because simultaneously realizing just like how truly miserable they were. And on both ends, like I was doing things to hurt that person. They were doing things to hurt me. It's just a bad combination. Yet as I'm writing them out, I get this urge to like reach out to them. And I've asked my sponsor and she's like, don't do that. I did that. Then when I tried to go, make amends, they wouldn't even listen to me. I was like, okay, but I don't know. It's just like, it keeps coming up, and I asked God to remove it, and it's like he does. And then it like comes up again, and it's like, I feel like I'm just being like attacked with it, because it's like I'll write out a name and I've got like, I don't know, 15 resentments against this person that I dated for like 2 years or whatever. But I'm just wondering if you've dealt with that yourself or dealt with sponsees who have some similar situation, and like what you would say to them, because I pray about it, and it's like I'll write about it, and then I like get in my own head, and I just start overthinking it, I guess. But anyway, I'm grateful to be here. Thanks so much for your share, Bob. It was really good.
As I said, the 4th step isn't to see whether I was good or bad. It tells me in the book I'm looking for what kept me shutting off the sunlight of the Spirit, what keeps me from having a relationship with God, and everything I did to you and other people keeps me from having that relationship. When I stop doing those things and start living a principled life, start living with honesty, hope, faith, charity, forgiveness, all those different things, when I start living with those things and start practicing those things, then I'm living a truthful life. Making amends too soon, you don't know what has changed in you. What has changed? Until you do these steps, until you do this 4th step, until you do this telling of your whole life story, until you find out what those things are that you want to have removed, until you finally start using these prayers, can you really go back and show a person how you have changed? It's not going back and saying you're sorry. And that's usually what amends are in the beginning. It's just going back and saying we're sorry. And we've said that 100,000 times. And we've always kept doing the same things over and over again. So yes, your sponsor's right. Don't try to make amends too soon, but immediately coming into the program, we start making amends. So being sober and starting a new way of life is making amends, beginning to make a living amends. So keep walking this path. I have a format that was given by Dallas B. from Texas in 2007 convention. I'm going to put my telephone number and email in, and anybody who wants this format, it goes right by the big book, and it shows you step by step how to do every single one of those columns in all of the 4 lists, not 3 lists, the 4 lists that are there. If you want it, I'll send it to you, anyone who wants it, if they send me an email. Okay? So, or text me your email or something like that so that I can send it back to you. So follow your sponsor. Usually they have the best advice. They know more about living than I do. Otherwise they wouldn't have been sober before me.
Thank you, Olivia, for the question, and Bob, what a great answer. Thank you. Next up, Nikki, do you want to come in with your question?
Hi, thank you so much, God, for your share. That was amazing, and I could relate on so many similar things. Quick question. I'm currently 3 days into a detox, and I'm working the tools, but I'm struggling a lot with fear. And I have been speaking to my sponsor about this and connecting with other fellows. But what can you suggest to me, and what was your experience with this?
Just what we talked about in the last person. 4-step. 4-step, one of the lists are fears list, and there's a prayer in there for fears. It says, God, please remove my fear and direct my attention to what you would have me be. So I can't remove my fears. No one can remove my fears. My higher power is what removes my fears, and that's by changing me and changing you and having you find out principles to live by. Get these prayers. Send me your email, and I'll send you the prayers, and you can see them. And at the bottom of each prayer, they're in PDF form. It'll show you the page number that it's on in the big book.
Thank you for the question, and Bob, thanks for the answer. Next up, Lawrence, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks very much. And thanks very much for a beautiful share, Bob. I just wanted to quickly read a piece of the big book and then ask you a question. It's from page 417. Acceptance was the answer. When I'm disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it was supposed to be at this moment. This is something I still really struggle with, and my question was there any kind of moment in your recovery where you really struggled with acceptance, and how did you work through that?
First of all, that which you just read is Dr. Paul's Coming to Believe. That's his spiritual experience, because if you read the paragraph before that, you'll see that that's his experience of having a spiritual experience of acceptance. To have acceptance, there's a key to having acceptance. You can't just accept anything. I can't accept people who are child abusers. But then when I understand that they are sick, they have a disease, and that they can't help themselves, and that they need something to help them recover from their disease, and I understand that, then I can accept that. I still don't like what they did, but I can have acceptance. So understanding, look for understanding, and way you get that is by going to your higher power first and asking God, what is this is being shown me? What are you trying to show me here?
What a great question, Lawrence. Thank you. And Bob, thanks for the answer. Ben, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Ben, I'm an addict, and yes, Bob, thank you so much for such a powerful message tonight. My question is, where have you been quick to see where religious people are right, as it tells us in our 11th step in the big book?
When I see what principles they're living by, rather than by the doctrine, see, all religions have spiritual principles behind them. The problem with religion is people. See, people have their problems. They have their selfish, self-centeredness. They have their I wants also. And those get fouled up. Their egos get fouled up in it. So principles are in every single religious doctrine. If you look at the principles then you'll see that they're all the same, because there's over 10,000 religions in the world. They all can't be wrong. But where do they come from? They all come from practicing primarily love.
Beautiful. Great question, Ben. Thanks so much. Bob, thanks for the answer. Next up, Michael. Do you want to come in?
Cheers, Danny. Michael, recovered addict. Bob, what a message, man. Like, honestly, 51 years, just to echo what's already been said, like your enthusiasm, your passion, and like your humbleness. Even when Honest John or whatever he was saying was like, right, I'm going to go and speak to Ralph White, you know, it's just like, oh, good on you, mate, bless you. You know, it's just really nice to see. So my question is, over obviously such a long period of time, 51 years, how's your prayer and meditation grown from when you were first about, and then over the years, I imagine life's brought you challenges and that, and you know, how have you changed it up? How have you kept it interesting? How have you improved your conscious contact with God? And thanks again, Bob. Absolutely love everything you said.
I was told once, the only thing permanent in life is change. Your prayer and meditation is always undergoing change. And when you change with it, and when it comes more from your heart. See, a lot of prayer comes from the head, but then we have to get it to come from the heart. When you start reducing self, when you start learning how it works, how to reduce self, how to empty your cup, how to become humble, how to allow that spirit to flow in to change you. Does it work? Practice, practice, practice. It's just like playing tennis or any other sport. You couldn't do it at first and at all or any good until you practiced it. So you have to practice with prayer and meditation. These 20 prayers that are given to us in the big book are specifically designed for us because they're non-denominational and they're short and they're quick and they're to the point. They reduce self. Prayer reduces self. Meditation is quietness, waiting for the power greater than ourselves to enter, listening for the still small voice. That's what takes a lot of practice.
Thank you, Michael, for a great question, and Bob, amazing, amazing. Tommy, you're up next.
Thank you, Danny. My name is Tommy. I'm an alcoholic. And Bob, thank you. Wonderful share. My question, you shared with us your experience for 51 years on your knees, your spiritual experience, I think you described it as. Have you had any similar experiences along the way that you would like to share with us?
There is not enough time in this meeting and in all the meetings that you have that I could share all the spiritual experiences that I have. You'll sit in a meeting and you'll hear something somebody says and you'll go, oh, do you know that is a spiritual experience? See, because you're receiving the message. Something inside you says you've heard something that is affecting you, which is truth, and truth is your higher power. So yes, it works, and it always gets sometimes they're tremendous and sometimes they're not. But like people are looking for, I've never had that white lightning experience. I don't even know what the hell that is. But I've had some powerful ones, just like it says in the big book, like Bill had. We've had powerful spiritual experiences. And what was powerful then probably isn't that powerful today because of my relationships that I have with my higher power. So even the smallest spiritual experience that I have, even the one when I was finished up talking here and I started crying, that's a spiritual experience in having a God in your life. And you notice every answer I've given to every single question has to do about God and the principles of the program.
Thank you, Tommy, for a great question, and Bob, thanks again. We've got time for one more question if anyone wants to come in. Jess, you're up next.
Hello, I'm Jess and I'm an addict, and thank you so much, Bob, for your share. It was really amazing. I get fear when it comes to things like this, but one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, I struggle mostly with like one of my defects being self-condemnation and low self-esteem, and I think it's related to potentially not forgiving myself because I have caused a lot of harm in my addiction, especially to my children. And I wondered whether you could share an experience of when you maybe felt that freedom from that sort of feeling of, you know, feeling like you are punishing yourself, or, you know, that guilt or shame, or when you truly felt like you had forgiven yourself maybe for the illness you suffer with. And thank you for an amazing share.
You said the answer, but you probably never heard the answer that you just said to your question. The answer is you can never forgive yourself. You don't have the power. See, there's a prayer that we say sometimes, and it's called the Lord's Prayer. And in part of that Lord's Prayer, it says, forgive us our trespasses. Who is that? God. Forgive me my trespasses as I forgive those who trespass against. So when I forgive other people, God forgives me. I don't have the power to forgive myself. That's why we keep carrying that burden, because we keep trying to forgive ourselves and we don't have the power to do that. It's like turning our will over. We try to turn our will over every day and we can't. Why? Because God won't take it back. It was a free gift to us. Quit trying to forgive yourself and start forgiving others. When you forgive others, then you will find the forgiveness inside yourself. You will find the love inside yourself. You'll find the tolerance inside yourself. You'll find the patience. You'll find the kindness. You'll find the charity. You'll find the empathy. You'll find all those things in yourself when you start giving them away.